everyone, and welcome to the Empowering Women podcast. This episode will launch on one of my favorite days of the year, which is International Women's Day. And the theme this year, if you haven't already dug that out, is Embrace Equity. And that is what this community is all about, equity for all dimensions of diversity. But it's why I'm really excited to have Chloe Arsenault, and I hope I got that sort of close, as a guest on the podcast. She is a second-year student in the Civil and Mining Engineering Technician program, and she's been around the skilled trades for a bit, and she noticed a complete lack of female role models, and she's using her voice to help pave the way for women in male-dominated careers, and particularly in the mining sector. So welcome, Chloe, to the podcast.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here. I have so many amazing stories to talk about, as well as just my personal experiences to really help inspire women in general, and especially on such an important day.
Yeah, on a very important day. That's right. So you mentioned it, so I already owe you a check in the mail about your stories. So as our frequent listeners know, I love to start our podcast with tell me more about your story. So tell our listeners a little bit about your journey and maybe some critical points along the way that got you to where you are today.
So my story is kind of, I think, a bit crazy. So I started in the skilled trades around grade 10. So I wasn't familiar with anything in the trade sector. Actually, I was in the process of changing high schools. And when I did, the only classroom that was available was the welding class. As far as I knew, it was metal. And that was about everything I knew. And I said, you know what? I'm going to try it. It's going to be something different. And who knows? First day I went into the welding class, I walked in and I immediately realized I was the only girl there. And then it kind of hit me. Okay, maybe this is a little bit scary. But I went into the shop class, and I was actually in the older welding class as well. So there wasn't even enough students to put me in the grade 10. I was in 11 to 12. So I was like, great. All these people already know how to weld. I have no idea. And I just had this grade 12. He kind of took me under his wing. He showed me. And then, so I went in and I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. So I did my first weld, and he goes, oh my God. I was like, what? And he's like, why is yours better than mine? I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I swear, it's my first time. And then from that moment, I was like, okay, maybe I like this, maybe this is something different. So with that, I kind of started realizing that I didn't realize that I was so good at working with my hands, and that for as long as I knew, I always thought like I was going to go to university. I was going to have some super proper fancy job. And then I think at that point, it was really that realization where it's like, wow, this was a skill I never knew I had. And rather have not been in that position where I had to take that class, I have no idea I'd be where I am at now. So from that point on, I started realizing that I had these skills, and I started working at understanding more about what welding was. And from there, my passion kind of grew, where I went from welding, and the next year I took a carpentry class. So now I was taking two trades, and I was learning different power tools. And then I went on to grade 12, where I said, I want to keep learning more. So now I continue to expand myself in different trades. I started learning about the mining industry. And at that point, I knew like this is my future, and I can make something big out of it. But also, when I did start in grade 10, that was my first time entering a pageant. So my mom, she represented my home community when she was my age, when I was 15 at the time. And she said, you should give it a shot. And I immediately realized that this is a perfect opportunity for me to be able to public speak about my experiences I've had being the only female in the classroom, kind of learning those obstacles where I'm trying to navigate a different trade where I'm kind of late in the game. So like trying to figure out what I'm doing. And from there, I kind of realized this was an opportunity for me to use my voice and go to community events where I can public speak about my experiences. And from that point on, I realized that I also love being feminine. So because of my choice of career, doesn't mean I need to define myself to be just a welder or a carpenter where I have to stay like within my trade, and I can't really show that feminine side. Like I'm proud of being a woman, and pageantry allows me to have both versions of myself while making a difference. So that's where kind of I realized that at that point, I also love doing pageantry. And this year, it's going to be my third time competing for Miss Ontario. I have a 3-year break from that pageant, and I think it's a great time. I've grown as a person. I feel my message is much bigger now. I've learned a lot more trades, and the movement that is happening around women in these industries, it is
It's
a very
huge.
good year.
Yep.
So
I don't know
that's
about Canada, but I know it's huge here in the US. So
yes,
absolutely.
it's so that's kind of my journey in two different complete worlds. Very, very complete
It
different
is two
worlds.
very complete worlds. I know when we originally corresponded, I was completely blown away. I don't have the same story, but I did, as I shared in a different episode, I did beauty pageants as a child. I haven't done it in a long time, and that was, well, we won't talk about it. It's a really long time ago, but I think when I would tell that as part of a story, people would kind of look, they would give you the side head like, you're an engineer and you did that. That just doesn't really make sense. So in some way, I get what you mean, although you're doing it at exactly the same time. There was clearly space for me. But as I was preparing for this episode, Chloe, I didn't really know much about the mining industry, not something I did, but I found this statistic that really blew me away. So it said, according to recent estimates, women make up only around 8 to 12% of the global mining workforce. And as for our audience, that's in a variety of different roles, like from labor intensive to more technically skilled, and then some managerial positions, of course. And so based on that, I would say it's certainly a field that is male dominated or male populated. So tell me more about what motivated you to really say, yep, I'm going to go to school and this is what I'm going to do, because it is definitely not the norm.
Yeah, it's definitely not the norm. And to put that perspective, I'm the only female in my program currently. We are
And
20
about how many
boys.
people are in your program? Just round numbers.
20.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah. So
Not
I'm
even
the
10%, right? So 5%,
no.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So to put that in perspective, with what you said, is that it's not only very visible in the work field, it's also visible in the studies, where being the only girl has definitely, it comes with advantages, but it comes with faults. It's definitely not easy. You have to be strong-minded, and you have to keep that attitude that, I'm going to be part of the change. So some things I'm going to have to face so that the future generation of women won't have to feel that. And that kind of what keeps me motivated, knowing that I am part of the change. And with that, it is difficult. I've faced moments where I've had comments or, physical limitations where I have to kind of sit back and realize, okay, I can't be afraid to ask for help. And I think that can be an issue sometimes also, where women, they think if I put myself in that position, then it shows I'm weak. So I definitely think there's moments where it's like, I need to be strong and realize that, what, this is my passion. So I'm not going to let comments or certain things bring me down if this is what I love to do. And it's important to follow a career that makes you feel empowered. And I think a lot of the times I feel empowered when especially like I'm doing things and I'm realizing, I'm part of that change. I'm doing something that, my grandmother, she actually, I had a huge conversation with her, and she said, those job positions weren't available for me.
Mm-mm.
And
No way.
to be able to have her see what I'm doing and being like, I wish that would have been available for me, is crazy to think, because I've never thought about how not that was long ago that, women, you went to school and you were
Nope.
a nurse, a teacher. That was pretty much the only jobs you could really get back in the day. So
I was going to
for
say
me,
it's probably worse for you in the roles that you're going, but even with, I'm gonna call it more maybe I'll stick with engineering and maybe chemistry, like some of the physical sciences.
yeah.
I mean, women weren't common probably in your grandmother's time. It wasn't common and it's obviously more common for women to be in engineering now. Definitely more common than in mining. So yeah, it's a definite trend across. So good for you. She's getting to see that. I know she's excited and she's very proud for you. And I love what you said about, I think one of the lessons I'm learning, I'm a little bit farther in my life than you, but is that we got to change the systems, and it's our responsibility to those behind us to figure out how to start switching mindsets and changing the system.
And I definitely think another great part about women being in these industries now is not only is it empowering for women, but I think also men are starting to realize that they are not Superman either. They're starting to
Good point.
realize too that they can ask for help. And because I've spoken to people in the mining industry that are way older than me, or the generation that is part with me. And he said, it started with one female on the crew. Now there's two. Now there's three. But men are feeling and they're realizing, it's okay to ask for help, because now that we kind of have like diversity change in the industry, it's showing, we're all just human, and it's not women against men. It's us coming together to do the same job. Because I think another issue that sometimes women face is that, people they're not recognizing the work, but your gender instead. And I told myself, where I want to be recognized for my work ethic, my quality of work, and not my gender. And that's what I go into work with, that mindset, where it's like, doesn't matter gender, it matters on your work quality. So being also in the skilled trades, like welding and carpentry, like that's different world from also engineering. Those are times where it's like those physical limitations that I spoke about, where I've had to maybe take an extra 3, 4, 5 steps to do the same task, but it didn't mean I couldn't do it. I just have to find my own ways around. And with that comes change, where we are also evolving in making equipment more easier to access for everyone.
Yep.
So that's also a huge change.
Yeah, I love that you talk about help, because I think women have a tendency not to ask for help, or that's been my experience. So kudos to you for asking for help. And then the second one, I think we're all learning that vulnerability is not a bad thing. And to ask for help usually requires authenticity and vulnerability. You have to be vulnerable, say, yep, I can't do this alone, or I need a little bit of an assist. So I bet it is, but it's helping the industry as a whole, to your point, not just the women in the industry.
Yeah.
And I love what you said about the piece about making it easier for all, and particularly women, because then that gets into the people that may have some disabilities, or we have a huge effort here at Empowering Women on safety wear for women. So making it more open to them. So I'll give a shout out to Amy Rosa, as well as to Juno Jones Safety Boots. They both are doing a fantastic job of trying to make that work.
Yeah, I definitely agree on the workwear. That is also something super huge.
You need to be at the next conference, and you can do the fashion show with the workwear. It's fabulous.
I know, because I do fashion shows already. So I mean, that's a great idea for me.
All right. So Charlie, if you're listening to this, she's ready to go. All right. So you alluded to this earlier. You are participating in the Miss Ontario Regional Canada pageant. It sounds like you've done it before. So this is, I think it's a bias for everybody, but it's a bias on my part, because when you say mining and civil and mining engineering technician, that's clearly not what comes to mind for most people. So tell me a little bit more. You alluded to it on the outset, but what motivated you, or what continues to motivate you to do this in addition to a very busy life?
So I guess I just don't like to allow myself to have a break. There's
a theme on this podcast that my guests don't sleep.
Yeah, I think that's just what it is. But no, so my love for pageantry started when I was 15 years old. So my mother, she was, so I'm from Azilda, that's my little small town. And my mom represented that area when she did Miss Ontario. And it just happened that I stumbled on that website when I was the same age as my mom. And she goes, try it out, contact them, see if you could get in. And from there, I had my phone call interview. And from there on, we had side-by-side pictures of me and my mom with the same title, which was super, super cute. And so I kind of didn't really know what to expect my first time going into pageants. I didn't realize how important coaching is, and public speaking skills came. And that was a little bit of a shocker after I did my first competition. But I also realized a lot that these are empowering events. So crazy. At least in Miss Ontario, we have one day where it's full of workshops, where we have guest speakers come in who speak about how to deal with finances, how to deal with stress, how to deal with anxiety. So these kind of help the girls and the women who are competing kind of just work on themselves as well as realizing their own potential. And I think through pageantry, there's the interview process, there's 1 minute public speaking speech, there's on-stage questions. So these all help build your character in the sense where you have to be able to think fast. You have to be able to speak well. You have to be able to be a community leader. You have to have a strong message and a strong point. So those are all huge aspects. And there's so much different scoring aspects that people don't realize as well, where it comes down to who wants to really make a difference and why should she win. And it has nothing to do with, I want to say, pageantry has evolved. So prior in the day, I would say I probably wouldn't have been interested in pageantry. But something I like to cross-reference now is that with the evolution of women in the trades, it's the same story with pageantry. And that's where I found a love for it, is that in pageantry, we look for a role model, a leader, somebody who wants to make a difference. And that's where having a strong message and a strong point and being able to use your social media and use that crown and that sash to be able to make a difference, that's what it comes down to. And I truly believe that my message is important because there isn't a lot of female role models in the industry. And there's not a lot of women who show that they are proud to be a woman in the industry. And I think that with pageantry, I'm able to combine the both, where it says, you know what, hey, one day I'm wearing coveralls and the next I'm wearing heels, but that's both me. And I'm proud to be both. And I absolutely would never change my career choice. And I love that. But I also love that pageantry allows me to strengthen myself and build my own character. And I think that with my past experiences, I've been able to learn also losing helps you build yourself up. From there, you realize, okay.
I'm laughing because we just talked about this. I did a recording for a different podcast that'll release pretty soon. And we talked about Abby Wambach, who's a very successful U.S. national soccer player. She's written a book and it talks about rules to change the game. And one of her rules is failure is fuel.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm laughing at what you're saying.
It is totally true. This is my third time competing. I did take kind of 2 years in between. And I've never allowed that to kind of defeat me and stop me. If anything, I realized, this is a goal of mine and I for sure want to keep working at it. And it only comes with, growing and realizing what is important. And now that I know that this year is such a good year for my platform, I feel it's the best year for me to enter because in my life, I'm in such a great point in my life. I'm working for my education. I'm working for my future. I'm working to join different women empowerment movements that support female in trades. So I want to show that I'm not only working towards a pageant, but I'm working towards also making a difference for the females that are going to be behind me in these skilled trades. So definitely pageantry is super strange that people, they're so confused about the both, but
well, I had to ask the question because I knew there would be at least one person that would listen to this episode and be like, I don't understand. Right. And so I think it's what I did not realize is how much I'd call those leadership skills and professional skills that regardless of what industry you go into, you're going to need those. So it's amazing that it's not just that event that we all think about on TV or what have you. There's a whole process around it, which is fabulous.
Yes, it's a definite huge process. I mean, the amount of times I went through practicing interview questions and just kind of building who I was. So I knew that when I spoke, it was authentic. This is me and this is what I want to do and this is who I want to be and this is what I'm going to keep doing to work at those goals. So it's kind of being a strong version of yourself, and to be strong you build communities. And I know that's definitely something that it's been important to me, and I know it's going to help the future, and I'm just excited to be able to be part of that change as well.
Well, we've alluded and talked a lot about this, but I at least want to ask one more time, is there anything else you'd like to say about your platform? Obviously, we talked a lot about it. But are there any other points you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, for sure. So my platform is kind of encouraging women to kind of pursue careers in the skilled trades. And from there, I kind of love to speak about my personal experiences. So I've been able to do a welding competition in the past. And I didn't
Diala,
win,
if you're
but
listening, I know you're going to love that. Go ahead.
so that was called Skills Ontario. Again, I was the only girl there too, which I mean, no shocker, but I mean, it was super cool. So there's definitely opportunities in the trades, but there's also financial security, you know, knowing that these are, yes, hardworking jobs, but they're highly rewarding. Not just financially, but also I think mentally, it helps me build a character. And my platform, I just really want to be able to, through my social media, share my experience and share videos and clips of me doing different trades. And from there to realize that, you know, women can lead and succeed in the trades. And that is if you see a leader, and I want more girls to be able to approach me and be able to say like, hey, what's available in these careers, what can I do with this, or where can I go with this? And I think it's important that I can continue to share my message so that I can have more of a community kind of come together and realize, you know, that these jobs are for everyone, and they're quite honestly life-changing. With the mining industry specifically, you can go beyond far with this. You can be working outside of your country.
Yep.
You could be working like different rotation schedules that allows you to do 2 weeks in at work, 2 weeks at home, where you have the time to be able to do different things. So scheduling as well really allows, I guess, people to kind of be able to do more with their life and their career at the same time. And so I just want to be able to continue to work at my platform. So this year I set a goal for myself to learn as many different trades as I can. So now I just recently started learning more about automotive, which was a trade I never touched base on. And I'm realizing there's a lot to it. That's for sure.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I have a job at the college I'm at currently. I work with the trades teacher, and he's been teaching me different trades and kind of taking me under my wing. And I'm very thankful for that, because I'm able to learn different trades so that when I do public speak about my experiences, I have a decent idea of every trade, and I'll be able to be that leader for that. So I've been learning a lot of new things, and it's very exciting.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think there's a TED Talk in your future. I don't know the name of it right offhand, but there's a TED Talk out there. You can Google it, I'm sure. But she actually builds a toolbox, like a wooden toolbox, during her TED Talk. It is fascinating and amazing. So she gives this TED, to me, those are nerve-wracking as it is. And she has a saw, the whole thing, and she's building the box as she's talking. It's fabulous. So that's amazing. We'll talk about building stuff. The fun question I really wanted the audience to hear as part of this is about your tiara. So can you share a little bit about that and what your idea for it was?
Yes, but first I wanted to show it too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there it is. It's fun. Yeah.
So the story that came about how I welded my own crown is quite interesting, actually. So that was a dream of mine, an actual dream. I went to bed and I had a dream that I welded a crown, and this was prior to one of my competitions. And I went to school the next day, and I was telling my welding teacher, I'm like, you know, it's crazy. Like, I had a dream and I welded a crown. And he was like, well, do it. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, do it. So then I went online, I found like a tiara model that I liked. And I was like, okay, like, how can so I printed that. And then that's where I realized, I was like, oh, maybe I can make this. This is kind of cool, actually. So from there, I also had to find my own ways around to make it, again, with strength, and realizing my own strength. I had to kind of use different tools to navigate it. So for one of them was that to cut the pieces of metal, I was using a vise and pliers, but I couldn't cut it with just my hands and the pliers. So I put the pliers in the vise and spin it until a piece of metal would go flying across the shop, the other one in the bucket. And then I was like, everybody knew I was working on my crown, because it was like a piece of metal was flying across the room. And I was like, I'm so sorry, everybody, but this is important. I have to weld a tiara. Like, I'm just don't get in my way, because it's just going to fly in your way. So from there,
So funny.
I kind of followed the structure model of the one I had on paper, and I just went in, tacked it all together,
Right.
added a little bit of jewels because you can't have a crown without jewels, obviously.
Right.
And I didn't realize the impact that this little crown actually would have at the end. I've been able to bring it to a lot of my public speaking events. I've had lots of people want to try it on. People asked me if I was going to make a line of like welded crowns, and I was like, you know what, they're unbreakable. Honestly, you could drop them, like nothing will happen. They're welded together. So from there, I had a lot of people have lots of interest in it, and I did not realize that my dream would be some crazy experience that I was able to bring a lot of light on for women in the
Well,
skilled
I
trade.
know that when Charlie Matthews listens to this episode, she is going to find a way to have a welded crown at one of her events coming up at some point. I can tell it. So you probably just spawned her idea. So watch out, world, here it comes. Well, speaking of watch out, world, as I mentioned on the outset, when this episode airs, it will be International Women's Day. And as I mentioned, the theme is embrace equity. So I'm curious how you embrace equity in your own life, be it gender or otherwise, and how you encourage equity in your own circles and community.
So again, this is a very great question. And I've been able to meet a few women in the industry. We're not many, but
you're small, but you're mighty, right?
Yeah. And I met this one female. She's a millwright apprentice, and she had a very interesting story. And I just want to share this because it talks about kind of some of the comments that we face being a female in the industry and how she overcame this. So she was starting as an apprentice, so that can be scary sometimes. You know, there's a lot of pressure, and so she went in the shop that day, and there was a guy who told her she didn't belong there. And immediately, that did not affect her. She's very strong. That did not affect her at all. But what she took out of that was, you know what, you might think that, but I'm going to work every day to prove to you that I deserve my position here. And she did. She continued to be working every single day, working really hard, doing everything she was told to do without an issue. And there was nothing wrong with her work ethic. It was just still that old mindset that's still there. And a month later, after she started working there, he actually emailed her saying, "You changed my perspective on how I view women in the trades, and I just wanted to let you know." And although it might not be the nicest way, I guess you could say, she said from that she realized, you know, if it takes one person at a time, it doesn't matter, because I'm still going to continue to work at that to show that I deserve my position here just as much as you do. And I won't allow my gender to change like somebody's mindset. If anything, she wants to show, you know, she got hired because of her skills, and she was able to do that, and she changed somebody's mind. So for me, I've had similar experiences as well, where when I tried going for sponsorships, when I first started in pageantry, I tend to want to go to trade shops or companies that are more related in my platform, just because for me to have support from those companies shows that they support what I'm trying to do as well. So when I had walked into this one shop, there was all guys in the office, and then the first thing they said is like, "Oh, we don't have any women here." But I hadn't said anything yet. They didn't know what I was there for. I had a sash, and from as far as they knew, like they had no idea. And I said, "Oh, well, actually, I'm here because I'm looking for sponsorships to support me through pageantry. I promote women in skilled trades." And immediately the whole tone in the room changed. It was, "Oh, we would love to sponsor you. We love your initiative." But it wasn't until I spoke about what I was doing that this mindset changed. And at first I was like so for it, but then I started thinking more about the situation. And I said, it's very sad to know that the sponsorship was only because they knew it'd benefit them, you know, because as soon as I started talking about what I was doing, the mindset changed. And this was only 3 years ago. So it really shows that this is recent. And although I kind of took back from that experience is that it's going to take time to change. We've evolved a lot, but definitely gender equality in trades is definitely important to me. And I think I just us women who are here, we have to continue to work and push through those boundaries and those hard times, because we can change people's mindsets. And it's been proven through hard work again. But those are just kind of two experiences I wanted to share that kind of touch base.
Unfortunately, Chloe had a very similar experience. I don't know that I responded as well as she did, to be really honest. I think, quite frankly, I was just a couple years into my career. I think I was just confused. So as growing up in my family, the message was always, you can do what you want to do, just put your head to it. I went into engineering, quite frankly, not realizing it was super male dominated. And I had a lot of support in college. And I got that first job out of college. And I had a person who actually liked me as a human being, but he made that comment of, you don't really belong here. And the insinuation was, you took the job for a guy. That was the insinuation.
Yeah.
So I didn't really respond at all, because I was so caught off guard by the comment. What do you mean I don't belong here? I got my education, I earned the role. What do you mean? So I love that story. And I would also say, even though she only impacted that one person in the moment, you don't know who he talked to. So he could have been in a different circumstance and says, well, that's not my experience now. And I think it starts to compound that way. You change the life or the mind of one, and then you start to change the mind of many.
Yeah, I totally agree. I definitely liked her story. I've been pretty lucky where I've faced sometimes, but I haven't faced anything that specifically points out to me. I know my limits, so I do know if I have to ask for help, I ask for help. So I know what I'm capable of, but I know that I deserve a spot in this type of career 100%.
Yeah. Well, speaking of accomplishing that, obviously you're in school, that's a lot, and then you have the pageant. Are there anything else specific that you're trying to accomplish in 2023? That's both of those are a lot.
Yeah, I want to continue to learn different trades. That's definitely something that I set that goal for. There's so much to learn, and I feel you can always just build yourself better. And I think for me, that's learning different trades, because in a way they all link together. And,
I think that'll be the highlight quote for this episode. You can always build yourself better. I like that. I'm going to put that one at the top. All right. So I can't believe it. It's been such a fun conversation. We're getting near the end. So one of the questions I like to end with is, what piece of advice would you leave with our audience?
I think it comes back to my first experience ever going into the welding class, where I said this was something new and I didn't know what to expect. It was to just try something new, because you never know what'll come out of it. And I know this is definitely a saying that we've heard through different people or something, but sometimes you don't even realize that you live that saying until you look back and experience that truly was that. So for me, it was getting in that classroom the first time. I did not know what was going to be the outcome. I thought it was just a welding class. I thought it was just going to be 1 year. I had to go through this because it was the only class available, but turned out to be a life-changing point for me. And I'm where I'm at now because of that. So definitely try new things, because you never know what'll come out.
Yeah. It could be that 1 year in this case, or it could be the change of the rest of your life. So I absolutely agree. So final question, where can folks find you and how can we support you, especially in the pageant as that happens later this year?
Okay, so I have 2 social medias. I have my Instagram, which is Miss_Chloe_Arsenault. And then I have my Facebook page, which is Miss Chloe Arsenault's Pageant Journey.
Awesome. Well, we're excited for you. You are amazing. You have just a fabulous career in front of you, and you are so brave and courageous to step out on the stage, as well as to step into the trades in both. So thank you so much for being here and for being our guest on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me.
Bye, everybody. We'll see you in the next episode.